Hey guys, welcome back to Hike Oregon. Today I'm going to be doing the first part of my Hiking in Winter series. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks so that you can continue hiking in the winter. A lot of you on Facebook see pictures of me hiking in the snow and doing a lot of winter hiking, and many of you had questions about how I do this. I know a lot of people tend to just not go hiking in the winter seasons due to the cold, nasty, rainy, and snowy weather. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks so that you can continue hiking in the winter. This is going to be a 3-part video series, and in this first part we're going to be talking about footwear and clothing. Those are two of the most important aspects of winter hiking, so this is really important. I thought we should start with this in the first video. For footwear, you want to make sure that you are wearing something that is waterproof. In many states around the US, it is cold and rainy in the winter. Especially in Oregon, you're going to encounter lots of rain, and if you're hiking in higher elevations, you will encounter snow as well. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a boot that is waterproof. There is nothing worse than having sloshy, wet feet on your hike and it's like 22 degrees or something and you just have cold, wet feet. That is miserable. So you want to make sure to have a waterproof boot. For women, I have a great example here. This is the new Montera boot. This is a great leather waterproof hiking boot. It even says Event waterproof. It's like the new version of Gore-Tex, basically. Gore-Tex is a brand, so a lot of brands make their own version of that waterproof material. So the Event, if you can see here, that white lining in there, that is what will wick the sweat out, but it will make sure that the water, it's like an extra barrier. So even if the water comes through the leather, which it shouldn't, that Event barrier will keep your foot pretty dry. With leather boots, it is really important to condition them. I would say twice a year or so, especially if you are wearing these in the summer as well. They're likely to get dusty. The dust will get sucked up by the leather, kind of like your pores would suck the dust in, and it can break down the leather. So you want to make sure that if you are using these for summer hiking as well, once it starts getting rainy and you think you're going to be hiking in the rain, make sure to, before these get wet for the first time in the season, to leather condition them, and it will make your boot last so much longer. Now for men, I have a men's boot here as well, just for comparison. This is a full leather boot as well. It's the Zamberlan boot. The Vibram sole, just like the Anu's. I find the Vibram sole to be really comfortable, as well as like grippy. It's super grippy for rocks and stuff like that. So again, this is a full leather boot. This one is going to be more expensive than the Anu one that I had because, as you can see, it is full leather. There aren't any seams or anything right here, whereas mine, you can tell it's been stitched a lot. So you actually want to stay away from something like that. So it has stitching here, it has stitching in the front. Anything with a lot of stitching is going to make it less waterproof over time. The stitching will wear out, the water will go into those seams. So really, if you want to have a waterproof boot that will stay waterproof for many years, you're going to want to invest in a full leather boot. As you can see, it only has stitching in the back where the two leather panels come together, and then of course the tongue, but the rest of it is all one leather piece. Really, you want to go for something like this. I know it's pretty expensive. Something like this is going to run you $280, yeah, $250, $280, whereas the Anu Monteras, they're around $130, so about half the price. And then these, if you condition them, they'll last you, I mean, it depends on really how many miles you hike and stuff like that. But as far as waterproofness, they should last you about 5 years. But something like this, just to get started, just to get yourself into the winter hiking, this is great. I used this for snowshoeing and stuff like that, and it was plenty warm as well. If you aren't sure about winter hiking, if you're just getting into it, there's no need to spend $250 on a boot right away, but make sure it is a waterproof shoe. Okay, now we're gonna talk about clothing. Clothing is super, super important, especially when hiking in cold and wet conditions, because you can easily get hypothermia. I know that's not really something people think about very often. They're like, hypothermia, whatever, that happens to mountaineers. It can happen to you at an elevation of 3,000 feet. It really can. The number one important thing to remember when winter hiking is do not wear cotton clothing. I know, like the saying, like cotton kills or whatever, that's a little extreme, but you will find it very, very, very uncomfortable. And if you are ever in a survival situation where you had to spend the night out or something like that unexpectedly and you are wearing cotton, yeah, you could easily get hypothermia and die. My suggestion is go with wool, and then any like polyester blend type thing. For example, this is 85% polyester and 15% spandex. That's the shell. The inner is 88% polyester and 12% spandex. So that is the kind of thing you want to go with if you are not wearing wool. Wool is, like I said, another thing that's really good, insulating, naturally wicking, but it tends to be a lot more expensive than the poly blend clothing. So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's talk about layering. Layering is super important when winter hiking because it can be 26 degrees outside and you're getting out of the car, you're super cold, you're getting your hike started, and then 20 minutes into your hike, you're walking uphill, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so hot. When you start feeling warm, you want to shed a layer. Try your best not to get very sweaty. Even with the poly blends, if you are sweaty, you are very likely to get cold. And like I said, if you are in a survival type situation and you are cold and sweaty, that too can lead to hypothermia, even if you have the poly blend or wool type clothing. Just because you have those clothes doesn't mean you're not going to sweat or get them wet. They just dry a lot faster and wick the moisture away from your skin, whereas cotton does not do that. So let's start with kind of how you would go about layering for a winter hike. I really like to have something that is tight against my skin, so I have a base layer at all times, like a tank top. They make tight t-shirts as well, like really thin, but they're tight against your skin. I really like that tightness against my skin for a base layer. So this base layer basically sucks up all the sweat, and then my other layers don't get wet at all. From there you can kind of do whatever you want, and you kind of have to look at the weather of the hike, what temperature it's going to be. You might want a base layer and then like 2 layers on top and then your coat, or just 1 layer. You can kind of cater it to what the temperature is going to be on your hike. I suggest a base layer and then maybe 1 or 2 long sleeve layers on top of that. For example, a long sleeve layer would be something like this. It's kind of a thicker shirt material. Again, this is the poly blend, the 88% polyester one that I read the tag off to you guys. It is fuzzy inside, so that's really nice in the winter. They make leggings like this as well, where it is fuzzy inside. It's really, really nice. So something like this I like a lot because it does have the zipper, so if I do get a little warm, I can just unzip a little bit for airflow. So either you can just go with that on top of your base layer, or you can put a t-shirt on top of your base layer and then something like that, and then your coat. Again, it all depends on how hot you run and how cold it is going to be on the hike. If it's only 40 degrees on the hike or something, you're not going to need 5 layers. But if you're going into the mountains, let's say you're snowshoeing, it's going to be between 16 and 20 degrees. You're going to want to take more layers. Again, you can always take the layers off. That's the beauty of layering. And then as far as coat goes, I highly recommend something like this. There are many coat options, of course. You can go with a down coat. Those aren't great for Oregon winter because it does rain here a lot, and you don't want to get down wet because it won't keep you warm once it's wet. So if you do go with a down jacket in Oregon, you're going to want to take a rain shell with you, just in case it starts raining or snowing. You don't want to get that down jacket wet. So that's why I recommend something synthetic like this. So this is it's hard to show on camera. This is a North Face jacket, and it does come with a detachable hood. You can detach this, which is great. So if it's not raining, for example, or you prefer a rain hat, you can take that off. The other great thing is it has 2 layers. So it has this outside waterproof shell, which zips onto this inner synthetic, I guess it's like synthetic down. It's kind of puffy. It zips onto that inner shell and creates a nice thick jacket that keeps you very, very warm. The great thing is if you get really hot, you can unzip this outer shell and just wear the inner puffy coat basically. Or you can do it the opposite if it is raining. Take out the inner one, put it away, and just wear the outer shell. This is a great jacket, and I highly recommend something like this for Oregon winter hiking. Now, if we talk about what to wear on the bottom, it's a little less. For both men and women, I highly recommend wearing some sort of tights or long underwear. They have all sorts of brands of tights and long underwear at your outdoor sporting goods store, but you want to make sure to wear something tight against your skin. Again, that will keep you the warmest, and then layer on top of that. So I always wear like some sort of leggings on the bottom. Again, I really like the ones that are fuzzy on the inside for winter. They keep me a lot more warm. And then on top of that, I will wear a similar material to the jacket. I will wear a pant like this. So it's a water resistant material. It's kind of stretchy. It goes over your underlayer really nicely, and it will keep you super dry. Whether it's raining or you're hiking through snow or anything like that, these pants will keep you dry. This is the REI brand. They are 88% nylon, 12% spandex. That's the outside. The inside is 100% polyester. These are really great pants. As you can hear, they're kind of water resistant material. They don't say they're waterproof, but I find them to work just as well as like a rain jacket. The water just pills right off of it. This is what I recommend. It keeps me super warm. And then, of course, you want to have extra socks. So I always keep extra socks in my backpack just in case there is an emergency and my feet are soaked and I have to change. And then you always want a hat of some sort. Even if you have a hood on your jacket, hats are super important. Whether it be a rain hat or a beanie of some sort. I recommend wool. Wool is going to keep your head dry and warm, so a wool beanie is great. Also, they have wool headbands. If you don't want to wear a full hat, you can just cover your ears with like a wool headband. Those are really nice as well. And then gloves. I really recommend gloves. Something like this that's waterproof as well, rather than just mittens, is really nice. These go down further than mittens too, which is great because then your jacket can go over and really cover your arm. Mittens tend to I have big hands, so they tend to kind of just end right here, and then I have this like gap when I'm walking because my jacket rides up and I have like a gap of skin, which kind of gets cold. So gloves, super important. These are great as well if you're wanting to build a snowman or whatever. These will keep your hands dry. Also, if you fall, you don't get your mittens soaked. These are really great. I highly recommend these. These are North Face. I'll link them below. They have them on Amazon and stuff. That is all I have for you today in the first video of my Hiking in Winter series. If you have any questions about winter footwear or clothing items, just comment below and I will respond. Keep your eye out for the next 2 hiking in winter videos. The video number 2 is going to be all about like how to find a good winter hike, because they can be limited. A lot of them are like just in snow and you cannot go there. And then getting to the trailhead and stuff like that. Just tips and tricks about the actual hiking in winter. And then the third part is going to be more about snowshoeing. So if you do want to go into those higher elevations and explore in the winter, you can't really hike because the snow is too deep, you're going to sink, and you just cannot physically hike. So the alternative for that is snowshoeing. So the third video is going to be all about snowshoeing and like how to find a good pair of snowshoes. I mean, there's like so many different types of snowshoes, what to look out for, that kind of thing. And then I'm going to talk about snow parks in Oregon as well. So keep your eye out for those 2 videos. They will be coming up the next 2 weeks. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next adventure. Okay, bye.